everyone, Fishman Island is getting a remaster. Yeah. Okay. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of One Piece based news. All right. So probably the first one that's the most notable is the anime is now going on hiatus for about 6 months. It'll be back in April of 2027. Oh, wait, sorry. 2025. Sorry, the years. Sometimes it's just, next year's going to be 2025. That's so crazy. When I was a kid growing up, 2025 seemed like a far off future year. Do we have that full dive, like VR technology, like in Sword Art yet? Does that exist yet? Can we have that? That'd be cool. All right. Anyway, so yeah, next year, April 2025, the One Piece anime as it is right now in the Egghead arc will resume. Okay, so we're in a little bit of a hiatus, but do not worry. There's definitely going to be stuff in the meantime to wet our whistles, as it were, okay? So we have first of all, a One Piece short film that's going to be directed by Megumi Ishitani. That's going to be a bunch of Straw Hat stories that are going to be adapted. I believe it was a light novel that came out a while ago. I talked about this when I was talking about Zoro's new light novel that he was getting. There were these Straw Hat stories that came out way back at Dressrosa, and they were just little isolated tales. Like there was one that I remember about Zoro being in a bar, and like there were a bunch of other people in the bar at Dressrosa, and Zoro was in disguise, so they didn't know it was him. And these Marines were just basically like, who's the strongest swordsman in the world, Mihawk or Shanks? And it was basically like a YouTube power scaling discussion, and Zoro's there, and he's like, well, I think this, pirate hunter Zoro, you'd throw him in the midst. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he's pretty good, but he's no Mihawk. Well, I don't know about that. And so that was pretty funny. So they're going to adapt some of those, and Nami's story is the first one that's going to be up. All right. But after that, on October 27th, we are going to have the rebroadcast, re-edited, redone, remastered version of Fishman Island. This includes the Return to Sabaody arc and then the Fishman Island arc proper. Okay, so everything from volume 61 right after we get back from the time skip all the way up to the end of Fishman Island. Originally, this was around 58 episodes in the anime. This is going to be scaled down to 21 episodes. So we're doing One Piece Kai. Hey, I play Kai in One Piece. Ah, there you go. It's great. Dude, remember back, 90s kids will remember this one. 90s and like early 2000s. Do you remember when whenever a VHS of an anime or a movie would come out, or like very early DVDs, the advertisements for those would always be like re-edited, uncut, remastered Dragon Ball Z like you've never seen it before. Like that kind of shit, right? That's kind of what this reminded me of. All right. So, why are they picking Fishman Island? Why this one in particular to remaster? I feel like the fact that it is the first arc after the time skip is the significant reason. And it's important to remember that this is nothing to do with Wit Studios' reimagining of One Piece. Like, Wit Studio has nothing to do with this. This is literally just taking the original anime, so like the original broadcast version of this, and then just going through and then just touching it up and removing certain filler elements and making the pace better. It really is like, Dragon Ball Kai. Dragon Ball Z Kai, I guess, right? Kind of like that. So we have some stuff to kind of compare here in the announcement. The shading is a lot better. It has more of like a 3D kind of effect to sort of like pop out. The lighting is a lot better, especially when you see like Brooks' concert at Sabaody. The concert is now like lit better, like an actual concert would be lit. I love this scene of Nami in the bar. It just looks a lot better here. And I gotta say, I'm really pumped for this because I like the Fishman Island arc. I like just that vibe that is in One Piece like right after the time skip, okay? So I started reading One Piece like in late Impel Down. We were like halfway through Impel Down when I started reading it weekly, and that was also right around the time where I got caught up into the anime, okay? So it was like right at the tail end of that first part of One Piece where Luffy goes to Marineford and this big epic war happens and he tries to save Ace and then he can't save Ace, and then it's like, oh, by the way, time skip. And then so like that time skip was such a big deal. I remember reading it. I remember waiting that whole month for like, man, I can't wait to see what the Straw Hats are going to look like after 2 years, right? And in the anime, when the anime came out, same effect there. I was just like, man, I can't wait to see this animated with their new outfits and everything right, like that, right? So I could see why they're doing this, definitely. And you know, it's interesting because the original run of the Toei anime, of course, has some filler as you go. The worst arc, I feel, there's two that are pretty bad. One is Long Ring Longland, because that whole filler was basically like, hey, let's do the entire arc all over again, but like lamer this time. Like that's basically the entire Long Ring Longland in the anime. But the other one that's really bad is Dressrosa. We looked this up on stream, and like the Dressrosa has like way more episodes than manga chapters, which is like a weird balance. Now, I understand why that happened in Dressrosa. The anime was getting very close to the manga in Dressrosa, and that's why a lot of filler was thrown in there. I don't think people remembered just how close they were running into each other there. So it made sense at the time. But dude, there's so many episodes of Dressrosa where like most of the episode is like a recap, and then we maybe go through like a couple of pages of the manga, and then the rest is filler, and then it's the end, right? And there's a lot of stuff that's drawn out. So if this is, I'm not saying it is because we don't know, if this is going to be like, hey, we're going to remaster all of the arcs in the New World, in the New World saga of One Piece, I would be okay with that. I would be really, really okay with that. Maybe not every single one, because it'd be weird to, like, remaster Wano when we just got done with Wano. But can we at least do Fishman Island here, Punk Hazard, and Dressrosa? Even if you were to stop after Dressrosa, because I feel like Whole Cake was handled fairly well. Zoe was not a long arc to begin with, so honestly, Zoe, if, you know, whatever they're going to extend in the anime is probably going to benefit Zoe, if anything, because it wasn't a long arc to begin with. It was only like 20-something chapters. And I think Whole Cake was fine, and then we get to Wano, which we just finished. So honestly, if you're just going to remaster anything, just go Fishman Island, Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, and then I will be good. I would love a remaster of Dressrosa with better pacing. Oh, that would be a Christmas present for me. But for right now, we have this, okay? So we have Luffy finishing up his training on Ruskina, and then going back to Sabaody. All the Straw Hats meet back together at Sabaody after 2 years. We have the fake Straw Hat Pirates, led by Damalo Black, and who's the fake Straw Hat Luffy and everybody there. We have the Marines getting involved. We have everybody trying to capture the Straw Hats. We have the display of power that Luffy and Sanji and Zoro show, taking out one of the prototype pacifistas with really no problem whatsoever, how much stronger they've gotten in the last 2 years. We're also going to get new music and new sound effects and soundtracks and stuff in the background to this as well. I don't know if they're going to be like it's whole new music that we've never heard before. Kind of would expect that. That would actually be kind of cool. Or if they just take more modern soundtracks, like the modern OST from like Egghead, and incorporate it back into Fishman Island like retroactively. Both of those ideas actually seem pretty good to me. But no, like some original music is always good to hear. Although I have to say, one thing that was a total vibe was in the new opening when we had Fishman Island, you know, so we go, like the original opening of One Piece is we are, and then with the time skip they had we go. When Luffy was revealing himself to all of the Marines and all the other pirates at Sabaody, and Sentomaru is there. And Sentomaru is like, PX-7, attack Straw Hat Luffy. And then it fires the lasers, and Luffy just does the pew, pew, pew. It's just like, you're slow. And then it explodes. And then we go cues up in the background, like, dee. And then it just starts playing in the background. And I'm like, oh, that was such a good scene. If they don't do that exact thing, I want to see how they handle it. Like that if they do that exact moment again, except they don't have We Go, because I think there's going to be an all-new opening. There is an all-new ending, I know that. So there's probably like an all-new opening as well, in which case they're going to have to redo some stuff. But I'm looking forward to it, you know, because it's like, whenever we had a situation in the anime where there is a lot of filler and a lot of stuff is bogged down, like in Dressrosa, I would always say it's like, well, we only got One Piece anime. Like, we only got One Piece anime. There's not like a bunch of other options for the One Piece anime to watch. This is kind of all we have. So it's like, what are you going to do? They're not going to make a different anime for each different arc of One Piece. Well, that is kind of happening now because we are getting the Wit Studio adaptation that's coming out. That's going to be a whole new adaptation from the very beginning. And then they're going back and remastering these ones. And it's like, okay, so we do have other options now. All right. So if they do go and remaster, like, I'll be honest with you. I mean, like, I don't know. I was going to say, like, when they remaster Fishman Island, I'm probably not going to go back and watch the original broadcast of Fishman Island anymore, but I still might. Like, it is honestly something very similar to Dragon Ball Z in that regard, because originally when the Dragon Ball Z dub ran in the United States on, like, Toonami, there was the Faulkner score. Okay, and like, when like Vegeta does his final flash, like dun 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 dun, that's my version of the Faulkner score, right? So later on, they would come out with Kai and then like a redub or whatever, and it would have the original soundtracks like from the Japanese. And I watch those, but I'm also like, sometimes I just want to go back and watch like the original broadcast of Z from like 2002 that has like the Faulkner score to it, like the original form of Goku going Super Saiyan 3 for the first time, so sometimes I'll do that. So I'll probably bounce back and forth between like the original broadcast and this one, but it's nice that we have the options now, right? Okay. So, what scenes are you the most excited for to see in this redone version of Fishman Island that's going to be about 21 episodes long, okay? Because there's some really good moments here, all right? The one that comes to mind immediately, and this is one that I was very surprised by. I remember even going back and like when I was first reading this back in high school, reading this scene in the manga and being just absolutely like, just jaw-dropping, was when Zoro just cut down Horty. Okay, when Horty invades the palace, and it was like, oh no, what are we gonna do? This is like the big bad guy of the arc. But the Straw Hats are really strong now, right? There was a scene where Horty's like throwing the water bullets, and Zoro just takes up his sword and is just pew, 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 just like blocking them like it's not a big deal. And then they're underwater, and it's like, oh no, Horty's a shark. He's a fishman. He's faster underwater. He's stronger underwater. Zoro's not gonna be able to beat him. And then Usopp just looks under the water, and then Horty's just like, ah, and just one slash, one sword style. Zoro just cuts him down immediately. I love that because it really, like, the new Fishman pirates were never a serious threat kind of thing. So Oda had to depict the arc or that villain group in a way that was like, all right, they're not going to be threatening by their show of power because the Straw Hats are simply too strong, okay? If the Straw Hats showed up before the time skip, if they were like in their pre-time skip forms and they fought against the new Fishman pirates when they were all roided up on the energy steroids and stuff like that, would have been more difficult. Not to say that the Straw Hats wouldn't have been able to beat them. I still think they would have. It would just been a lot more of a difficult fight for them to beat them. However, now they're so strong that it's like, okay, we need to go a whole other angle with this. So yes, Horty and his ideology is very, very dangerous, not in the way of just like, oh, they're strong so they can take over Fishman Island. No, it's more of like their words and their actions and their rhetoric is beginning to damage not just Fishman Island, but like the children that are growing up in that region are going to maybe like look to them and be like, oh yes, humans, we hate humans, right? That's dangerous, okay? And that's kind of the angle Oda went with it, all right? So you could still have them being like, oh yeah, in terms of sheer power, Zoro could cut off Horty's head like easy. Like it's not even difficult for him, honestly, right? But it's not going to be that simple kind of a situation, right? Now, it does all end up in one big final battle in the plaza, and the Straw Hats all show up there, and, Jinbei is there. He's not an official member yet, and they all fight against the new Fishman Pirates, and, like, Watatsume's there and everything. So some really cool battles, and we got to see the Straw Hats, like, new finishing moves, like the way that Usopp upgraded. He's got his Pop Greens, he's got his Impact Wolf. Robin can make clones of herself now. Nami's got an air sword. Luffy's Luffy's got his gear 2nd and 3rd upgrades. We don't even see gear 4th yet. You know, it's like, that's how much, like, Luffy's like, all right, Hody's not that much of a threat. I don't need to use gear 4th against this guy, right? Even after he gets, like, super roided out, and he's just like, don't do drugs, kids. And just like, oh, yeah, just eating all those drugs, and he gets his hair all white, and he's, like, super buff, and he's like, now we're strong enough, right? And it's like, no, you're not, right? So, seeing the fights with the new Fishman pirates, oh, Brooks' new abilities, oh, dude, Chopper's new horn point, you know, those are moments that I really look back on in the One Piece anime and the manga with fondness, because it was just like, wow, this is such a cool moment to see the Straw Hats just speed run through this, really. And we're going to see it even more speed run here, okay? So those are really good moments there. The flashback with Otohime and Fisher Tiger, which, by the way, I still need to do my video on Otohime. I mentioned I was going to do that. I did a video on Fisher Tiger. I need to do one on Otohime coming up, definitely. This might be the best time to do it, actually, considering we're doing the redone of the arc. But yeah, that flashback was really good. And a moment that I feel like does not get talked about enough, but is pretty powerful in Oda's writing, is he's handled this direction. I love how Fishman Island is not just a redone version of Arlong Park, where Arlong had genuine hatred towards humans because Arlong got to witness all of the awful things that humans did firsthand, right? You know, like the Sun Pirates were ex-slaves. Not all of them, but some of them were. And so Arlong hated humans for that reason. And the death of Fisher Tiger, his captain, right? That was a man that Arlong really respected. You know, no bluster or bravado. Arlong looked up to Fisher Tiger. Same with Jinbei, right? Okay. So Arlong got to see all this horrible stuff that Tenryubito and the humans did. And that's where his hatred came from. And that's why he ended up at Kokoyashi and enslaving Nami's village and killing Belmere and everything like that, right? Well, it would have been easy to do kind of the same thing in Fishman Island, like Horty used to be a slave or something, and then that's the reason he hates humans. No, a very, very powerful moment was when Fukaboshi was fighting against Hody, and Fukaboshi was just like he's indignant and he's enraged, and he's like, why, Hody? Why? You know, why are you trying to spit on the memory of our queen and my mother, Otohime? Like, what happened to you? You know, what did humans do to you to make you this way? Please, just tell me. And then Hody is just like, nothing. Nothing at all. Humans haven't done a single thing to me. I just hate them all. And it's like, dude, whoa. That, you know, like, if you just read that really quick and it just goes by, you might just interpret that as like, so his motivation for doing all this is that he has no motivation? That's lame. But no, it actually does make sense that he doesn't have a motivation, because racism in and of itself is something extremely illogical. It doesn't make sense. All right? And yet, people are still racist out there in the world that look down on other people simply for the color of their skin or their heritage or whatever. And it's like, Horty just is the representation of that in the One Piece world. Like, oh no, humans haven't done anything to me. I haven't really even interacted with them that much, but yeah, I still hate them. You know what I mean? Like, that's the idea. And it's like, Fukaboshi is like stunned by this. Like, this is way more of a systemic problem we're dealing with here. You know, when Fukaboshi is looking on at Horty like this, it's just like, this is way more of an issue than I ever thought it could be. You know, this isn't like humans captured you and tortured you at one point. It was like one human that did this, or one group of humans. No, this is like something beyond all this. This is like Arlong's ideologies permeating the next generation and corrupting it. That was Horty. Horty grew up around Arlong, and you know Arlong was not the best role model there. Arlong would be, he's like, all right, Horty, oh, sit down. Let me tell you how awful humans are. You know, that was basically Arlong. And so they're like, oh, we got to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And so you have that scene with Sharly, who was Arlong's sister, you know, ironically enough. And Sharly is like, you know, with all the children in Fishman Island, like, hey, no, I want you to pay attention to what's going on here, and seeing all this is happening. You know, we are about to be saved by human beings. Okay, humans are not bad. Please do not grow up thinking all humans are bad. That is not what the message here is supposed to be taken away from, right? There was even a moment when Jinbei, remember Jinbei left a message for Luffy that was like, hey, Luffy. And you know, this is Luffy we're talking about here. So Jinbei's like, do not fight Hody. Do not fight the big bad guy of the arc. Do not fight the final villain of Fishman Island. And Luffy's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. But you can understand Jinbei's logic there, because it's like, hey, you guys are humans, and it's kind of like a little bit tensions are high right now in Fishman Island. So if humans show up and beat the shit out of some fishmen, that might actually cause more harm than good. Now, it ended up becoming a thing where it's like, okay, Horty's gone too far, and he's stolen the Tanta Baco, and he's got the energy steroids, and they're roiding out like crazy, and they're stepping on effigies of Otohime all over the country, and they're taking over this is a coup, basically. They're now attacking the palace and, chaining up the royal family, and it's like, okay, this is a coup. We need to stop this now. So at this point, it's now time for the Straw Hats to all show up with Jinbei and fight at the plaza and defeat the new Fishman Pirates, which of course they do. But everything leading up to that is like, yeah, this arc is, the vibe of it might go under the radar, especially compared to a lot of other big story arcs in One Piece. But this one, it definitely is worth like a rewatch, and this is the perfect way to do that, I guess. So we'll see how this goes and how everything is conveyed in a much more not rushed, but a much more well-paced adaptation. Let's go with that, right? So, yeah, I mean, we simultaneously don't have a lot of One Piece coming down the pipeline, but we also have a lot of One Piece coming down the pipeline. So let's enjoy it, right? Let's enjoy all this new content that we're getting, Remaster of Fishman Island, and some short stories and short films that are coming out, right? Also, I mean, the manga is not on break this week. It's still coming out here, so we'll still have a new chapter this week. Excited for that. Yeah, and then as we will resume the Egghead arc in April, that'll be back then. So we're taking a little bit of break there, but it'll be enough to, take care of us in the meantime. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This is Teching 101 signing out. Later, everybody.